歡迎大家收聽米閱讀分享米 The Reader Podcast。今日咧嚟到第19集，講嘅咧係諾貝爾文學獎得主石黑一雄同埋佢嘅作品《The Remains of the Day》長日將盡呢一本書嘅。石黑一雄咧係喺2017年咧去獲得諾貝爾文學獎小說類啦，而其實佢早喺1989年咧係獲得 Booker Prize， 而憑嘅書咧就係 The Remains of the Day 呢一本書啦。石黑一雄啦 Kazuo Ishiguro， 佢係咧英籍日裔嘅作家嚟嘅。佢係長短篇小說都有寫啦，同時咧係一位音樂家。而事實上咧，佢年輕嘅時候咧，一直都想成為咧作曲家。不過後嚟咧就發現自己書寫嘅作品咧都幾獲得注目，同埋有一啲嘅獎項咁，所以咧先至成為作家啦。而且而家咧都似乎咧有不時咧係創作劇作嘅。瑞典嘅呢個即係諾貝爾嘅呢個頒獎嘅呢個學院啦，佢咧就宣布2017年諾貝爾文學獎咧係頒俾石黑一雄嘅時候咧，佢係有講到個原因嘅。For his novels of great emotional force that have uncovered the abyss beneath our illusory sense of connection with the world。意思大概咧就係話石黑一雄嘅小說啦，有種扣人心弦嘅力量咯，能夠揭出藏喺我哋自以為互相扣連，實際上咧係好空洞嘅呢個底下嘅真實狀況。其實咧我都幾同意噶，我覺得咧呢一種虛無空洞嘅感覺咧，喺石黑一雄嘅書啦，係當佢寫一啲關於咧現代科技點樣影響人啦，如何定義人之所以為人，以及咧係複製出嚟嘅AI 人工智能又可唔可以稱為人啦？呢一啲嘅課題底下咧，佢係特別能夠咧顯示出呢一種嘅空洞嘅感覺，係將呢一種感覺咧係表現得最出色嘅。而佢2005年出版嘅《Never Let Me Go》呢篇長篇小說啦，係已經成為咗 GCSE 嘅其中一本指定嘅讀物啦。故事大綱咧就係一個有複製人嘅世界，呢一啲複製人咧係會被養育，但係佢哋嘅目的咧就只有一個嘅啫，就係為咗人類提供移植所用嘅器官啦。呢一啲嘅複製人啦，喺整個人生入邊咧，只可以接受最多幾次嘅器官摘取，最後一次咧會被稱為整全。英文佢嘅用詞係 complete， 亦都即係咧佢哋短暫兼功能性嘅人生咧，就此終結啦。咁呢一本書咧，就呈現咗人類為咗滿足自己活下去嘅願望咧，製造出另一啲嘅生命加以利用。咁呢個故事啦 ，Never Let Me Go 咧，亦都因為咁咧，就叫我哋思考到人性嘅尊嚴啦。呢一啲複製人有冇呢一啲嘅尊嚴嘅咧？比如佢哋返學喺活着嘅時期，盡量咧都活得充實一啲，到底係咪好事咧？教育呢一啲複製人去思考，啟發佢哋去問我係邊個，去追尋自己嘅人生，又係唔係好事呢？2005年寫出呢一本咧關於複製人，被時代雜誌啦、Time Magazine 啦選為年度好書之後咧，到咗2021年咧，石黑一雄咧又寫成咗 Clara and the Sun。克拉拉與太陽呢一本書，咁呢本書咧就都承接咧Never Let Me Go 啦，就係講啦人工智能玩具嘅。今次咧就特別想講咧玩具就係陪伴咧小朋友成長嘅經歷。而家咧都唔少發達國家嘅人啦，只係生育一個小朋友啦，咁識得同人互動嘅 AI 機械人成為玩伴咧，好可能咧會成為未來嘅趨勢。咁石黑一雄咧就繼續關注啦。機械人有冇思想嘅咧？感受有冇感受嘅咧？我哋使唔使考慮佢哋嘅尊嚴咧？究竟呢啲機械人嘅出現係減少咗人嘅寂寞啊，抑或反而增加咗虛無、空虛同埋疏離嘅感覺咧？咁 個人認為咧，石黑一雄嘅呢一啲關於科學與道德倫理題材嘅作品咧，其實好適合咧同Black Mirror 呢一類咧短劇一齊去睇啊！我自己認為咧係相當有互相呼應嘅效果嘅。喺我錄製 podcast 嘅呢個期間，即係8月底咯，社會上咧亦都討論到 TikTok 腦，亦即係以快速短片餵養我哋嘅大腦咯，刺激咧佢咧產生呢個多巴胺，情況咧就會好似吸毒咁樣，長久落去咧就會影響，尤其年輕一代啦，去吸收咧比較長篇嘅一啲資訊嘅能力啊。而且咧會令到專注力咧就減弱咯，亦都會令到呢啲年輕人啦變得咧特別係焦躁嘅。咁我咧就覺得讀石黑一雄嘅書咧，可能係可以有助咧緩減呢一種焦躁不安嘅情緒嘅，因為佢嘅書咧係好着重描繪啦，語氣咧都幾平和，兼節奏咧係略為慢嘅。咁可以慢慢咁咧，將讀者咧導入故事嘅世界啦。而喺呢一個過程入面咧，石黑一雄咧係會用上優美不過咧都簡單嘅語言，咁有助讀者停留、細味、沉思故事當中嘅點滴嘅。咁由於咧石黑一雄嘅英文咧真係好靚啦，咁比起中文翻譯咧就好太多倍啦，咁所以我自己個人咧係強烈建議咧係讀英文原著嘅，學英文啦，亦都訓練咧可以慢落嚟咧去細讀呢個故事。而今日我選讀嘅選段啦，都係嚟自佢嘅書《The Remains of the Day》長日將盡。《The Remains of the Day》呢本書咧，係關於一個英國嘅男管家，即係 Butler 啦，Mr. Stephens 嘅，佢為2位僱主咧打工做管家嘅故事。首尾呼應嘅咧，係佢喺受僱期間認識並且互生情愫嘅一個女同事啦。20年之後咧，先至再會面同埋互吐心聲嘅一趟旅程同埋對話。書嘅其他部分呢，就係 Mr. Stephens 對自己20年嚟嘅工作嘅回憶咯，以及自己對各種事情嘅睇法。Mr. Stephens 係一個非常拘謹嘅人，佢想要咧成為專業啦、出色嘅管家，就更加劇咗咧佢唔願意啦，亦都唔擅長啦表露情感嘅呢一種特性。我咧睇過石黑一雄咧呢3本書咧，我發現咧尊嚴 dignity 啦呢一個課題咧都重複咁樣出現嘅。咁即使喺即係呢個 The Remains of the Days 呢一個男管家嘅故事咧都唔例外。首先咧佢喺男管家Butler 啦呢一個嘅個案入邊咧，就先交代咗追求卓越同埋尊嚴嘅重要性。咁我而家咧就想讀出呢一個第一個選段啦。It is with such men as it is with the English landscape seen at its best, as I did this morning. When one encounters them, one simply knows one is in the presence of greatness. There will always be, I realize, those who would claim that any attempt to analyze greatness, as I have been doing, is quite futile. You know when somebody's got it, and you know when somebody hasn't. Mr. Graham's argument would always be, beyond that, there's nothing much you can say. But I believe we have a duty not to be so defeatist in this matter. It is surely a professional responsibility for all of us to think deeply about these things so that each of us may better strive towards attaining dignity for ourselves. 對自己工作嘅尊重啦，敬業熬業嘅態度咧，對 Mr. Stephens 嚟講咧，就係取得尊嚴嘅做法啦。跟住落嚟嗰段咧，佢咧就我就想選讀出嚟啦。佢就繼續喺呢本書入邊咧就提到，咁喺國家層面上又點樣可以獲取到尊嚴咧？咁 Mind you, put in Mr. Harry Smith. With all respect for what you say, sir, it ought to be said. Dignity isn't just something gentlemen have. Dignity is something every man and woman in this country can strive for and get. You excuse me, sir, but like I said before, we don't stand on ceremony here when it comes to expressing opinions. And that's my opinion for what it's worth. Dignity is not just something for gentlemen. I perceived, of course, that Mr. Harry Smith and I were rather at cross purposes on this matter, and that it would be far too complicated a task for me to explain myself more clearly to these people. I thus judged it best simply to smile and say, "Of course, you are quite correct." This had the immediate effect of dispelling the slight tension that had built in the room while Mr. Harry Smith had been speaking. And Mr. Harry Smith himself seemed to lose all inhibitions, for now he leaned forward and continued, "That's what we fought Hitler for, after all. If Hitler had had things his way, we'd just be slaves now. The whole world would be a few masters and millions upon millions of slaves. And I don't need to remind anyone here, there's no dignity to be had in being a slave. That's what we fought for, and that's what we won. We won the right to be free citizens. And it's one of the privileges of being born English that no matter who you are, no matter if you are rich or poor, you are born free, and you are born so that you can express your opinion freely and vote in your member of parliament or vote him out. That's what dignity is really about, if you excuse me, sir." Now, Harry," Mr. Taylor said, "I can see you are warming up to one of your political speeches." This brought laughter. Mr. Harry Smith smiled a little shyly, but went on, "I'm not talking politics. I'm just saying, that's all. You can't have dignity if you're a slave, but every Englishman can grasp it, if only he cares to, because we fought for that right." 嚟到國家政治層面咧，即係喺呢本書入邊咧，透過 Mr. Harry Smith 呢一個角色咧，作者就表達咗要獲得人性嘅尊嚴咧，就係不作專制嘅政權咯，或者係獨裁者，好似希特拉管轄之下嘅人啦，不作奴隸咯，而係咧要做一個國家嘅公民，做一個即係自由嘅公民，享有投票權利嘅公民。另外喺呢一本書入邊咧，即係我覺得特別觸動我嘅咧，就係作為僕人管家呢一個角色啦，到底應唔應該咧受僱主嘅政治立場影響？換句話說，如果我自己嘅政治立場係同僱主相左嘅話咧，咁應唔應該另謀高就呢？甚或咧喺僱主作出抉擇嘅時候，出言表達自己嘅諗法呢？咁喺呢一本書入邊咧，Mr. Stephens 咧就作出咗佢嘅抉擇嘅。咁我而家就想讀出咧有關嘅選段啦。Although one sympathizes to some extent with the idealism contained in such an argument, there can be little doubt that it is the result, like Mr. Smith's sentiments tonight, of misguided thinking. One need only look at the butlers who attempted to put such an approach into practice, and one will see that their careers, and in some cases they were highly promising careers, came to nothing as a direct consequence. I personally knew at least 2 professionals, both of some ability, who went from one employer to the next, forever dissatisfied, never settling anywhere, until they drifted from view altogether. That this should happen is not in the least surprising. for it is, in practice, simply not possible to adopt such a critical attitude towards an employer and at the same time provide good service. It is not simply that one is unlikely to be able to meet the many demands of service at the higher levels while one's attention is being diverted by such matters. More fundamentally, a butler who is forever attempting to formulate his own strong opinions on his employer's affairs is bound to lack one quality essential in all good professionals, namely, loyalty. Please do not misunderstand me here. I do not refer to the mindless sort of loyalty that mediocre employers bemoan the lack of when they find themselves unable to retain the services of high-caliber professionals. Indeed, I would be among the last to advocate bestowing one's loyalty carelessly on any lady or gentleman who happens to employ one for a time. But if a butler is to be of any worth to anything or anybody in life, there must surely come a time when he ceases his searching, a time when he must say to himself, "This employer embodies all that I find noble and admirable. I will hereafter devote myself to serving him." This is loyalty intelligently bestowed. What is there undignified in this? One is simply accepting an inescapable truth, that the likes of you and I will never be in a position to comprehend the great affairs of today's world, and our best course will always be to put our trust in an employer we judge to be wise and honorable, and to devote our energies to the task of serving him to the best of our ability. 喺 Mr. Stevens 眼中啦，忠誠、服務良好，似乎咧係比堅持自己嘅立場咧係重要嘅。佢認為咁樣嘅管家又點會係undignified 咧，貶低尊嚴咧咁？而且咧，佢認為咧一個管家咧應該係咧揀一個好嘅主人，忠心咁樣侍奉呢個主人咧，咁就係最重要嘅。就提供最好嘅服務咧，就已經夠㗎啦咁。回想翻起嚟咧，我都曾經喺職場上咧有經歷過呢一種掙扎啦。咁所以讀到書中呢一啲嘅位置咧，就特別有感受。最後我自己嘅決定咧，就係唔好將自己視作一個僕人，所以咧我就離開咗呢個工作崗位啦。其實咧，主角 Mr. Stevens 咧，經常都欲語還休。唔太願意表露情感同埋咧真實嘅想法嘅，呢一種性格咧，唔知道係咪都算係普遍存在喺英國人當中。故事嘅結局咧平淡得嚟，再次反映咗 Mr. Stevens 呢一種拘謹啦，連嘲笑、戲謔，英文咧係 bantering 嘅技巧都要咧逼自己咧去練習，因為呢一種 bantering 嘅技巧咧係聯繫人同人關係嘅要素。喺日漸疏離嘅社會，鼓勵同陌生人咧搭訕，甚至互相咧戲謔，即係 bantering 啦，其實都係一個唔錯嘅提醒嚟嘅。我而家咧就想讀出咧差唔多係書咧係最後嘅選段啦。There are people of all ages strolling around this pier, families with children, couples, young and elderly,walking arm in arm. There is a group of 6 or 7 people gathered just a little way behind me, who have aroused my curiosity a little. I naturally assumed at first that they were a group of friends out together for the evening. But as I listened to their exchanges, it became apparent they were strangers who had just happened upon one another here on this boat behind me. Evidently, they had all paused a moment for the lights coming on, and then proceeded to fall into conversation with one another. As I watch them now, they are laughing together merrily. It is curious how people can build such warmth among themselves so swiftly. It is possible these particular persons are simply united by the anticipation of the evening ahead. But then, I rather fancy it has more to do with this skill of bantering. Listening to them now, I can hear them exchanging one bantering remark after another. It is, I would suppose, the way many people like to proceed. In fact, it is possible my bench companion of a while ago expected me to banter with him, in which case I suppose I was something of a sorry disappointment. Perhaps it is indeed time I began to look at this whole matter of bantering more enthusiastically. After all, when one thinks about it, it is not just a foolish thing to indulge in, particularly if it is the case that in bantering lies the key to human warmth. 石黑一雄嘅書咧，總係咧帶點暗黑、沉鬱嘅感覺嘅。唔知道啦，呢個跟英國嘅天氣其實有冇關係啦？我覺得咧，冬天睇《The Remains of the Day》呢本書咧，都有 feel 啲嘅，真係。但係同時咧，都有咧沉溺於哀愁嘅一個風險嘅。咁各位聽眾咧就可以自行考慮一下，係咪要喺冬天咧睇呢一本書啦？今集米閱讀分享關於石黑一雄呢一個桂冠作家啦，同埋主要對《The Remains of the Day》呢本書嘅分享咧，就嚟到呢一度啦。希望大家喜歡啦。下一集我哋會繼續桂冠作家系列，再會。